Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to go my review of SummerSlam 2012. Starting off the evening, we'll go to our first match of the night. It is Dolph Ziggler versus Chris Jericho. I thought this was a good opening matchup for SummerSlam 2012. Back and forth matchup between Ziggler and Jericho, with Ziggler keeping the pace of the match. Ziggler and Jericho both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Dolph hitting a famouser on Jericho for a near fall. Jericho gets up, hits an enziguri on Ziggler. Jericho then hits a Hurricanrana off the top rope on Ziggler. Jericho then hits a signature codebreaker on Ziggler, and then Jericho applies the Walls of Jericho on Dolph Ziggler. And your winner of the match by submission is Chris Jericho. Hats off to Chris Jericho for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Kane versus Daniel Bryan. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Kane and Bryan, with Bryan keeping the pace of the match. Bryan hits multiple yes kicks on Kane, and then Bryan ultimately hits a roll up on Kane, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Daniel Bryan. Hats off to Daniel Bryan for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. It is The Miz versus Rey Mysterio. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between The Miz and Mysterio, with The Miz keeping the pace of the match. Miz hits a slingshot powerbomb on Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio gets up, hits a 619 on Miz, but then Miz ultimately hits a skull-crushing finale on Rey Mysterio, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match, and at that time, still WWE Intercontinental Champion, is The Miz. Hats off to The Miz for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Alberto Del Rio versus Sheamus for the World Heavyweight Championship. Number one, I thought this was an okay match. Back and forth matchup between Del Rio and Sheamus, with Sheamus keeping the pace of the match. And Sheamus ultimately hits the finish on Del Rio, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Sheamus. Hats off to Sheamus for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is for the WWE Tag Team Championships. It is Kofi Kingston and R-Truth versus the Primetime Players. I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Kofi Kingston and R-Truth keeping the pace of the match. And R-Truth ultimately hits the finish, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match, and at that time still WWE Tag Team Champions, are R-Truth and Kofi Kingston. Hats off to R-Truth and Kofi Kingston for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is John Cena versus Big Show versus CM Punk for the WWE Championship. I thought this was a really good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Cena, Show, and Punk, with Show keeping the pace of the match. Big Show lands devastating chops on both Cena and Punk. Big Show then hits a sidewalk slam on Cena in the middle of the ring. Punk then hits an elbow drop for a near fall. Cena then applies an STF on Big Show. Show then breaks the hold. John then hits a leg drop off the top rope on the Big Show. John and Punk then apply a submission on the Big Show. Big Show ends up tapping out. After that, AJ Lee makes her way down to the ring. At this time, she was the general manager of Raw. AJ Lee says the match will restart. After that, Show quickly hits a choke slam on both Punk and John Cena. Cena then hits a AA on Big Show, goes for the cover. Punk then throws John out of the ring, and then Punk goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and at that time still WWE Champion, is CM Punk. Hats off to CM Punk for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of SummerSlam 2012. It is Triple H versus Brock Lesnar. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Triple H and Lesnar, with Lesnar keeping the pace of the match. Lesnar ultimately applies a Kimura on Triple H. Triple H ends up tapping out, and your winner of the match is Brock Lesnar. Hats off to Brock Lesnar for getting the win in this matchup. Couple things I want to say about SummerSlam 2012, man, before I get out of here. Number one, it was a solid SummerSlam. It wasn't the best. Definitely was not the worst. The opening matchup between Ziggler and Jericho, it was a solid matchup from top to bottom. Kane versus Daniel Bryan as well was also a really good match. Miz versus Mysterio, decent match for the Intercontinental Championship. Brock Lesnar and Triple H. The main event match was a solid matchup. To be honest with you, man, I think it was a match of the night, as well as the triple threat match. John Cena versus Big Show versus CM Punk for the WWE Championship. Again, a solid matchup, but to me, the match of the night was Brock Lesnar versus Triple H. Solid matchup, great storyline leading up to that match, and Brock Lesnar ended up securing the win. So, but all in all, it was a decent SummerSlam. Wasn't the best. Damn sure was not the worst. If I had to give SummerSlam 2012 a solid rating from 1 out of 10, I'm probably going to give it a solid 5, maybe 5.5 at best, man. But this is my review of SummerSlam 2012. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.